YouTubers, and welcome back to Tony the Technician channel. And today we're going to be going into some tools I believe that everybody should have if they're going to get into the automotive field. So basically tools that you'll need to start out, and it's definitely going to vary from person to person depending on the job that you get and what you're going to be doing. Because if you went to school and you have a long background, maybe you've worked on cars a lot and you have a lot of experience, but you've never actually been in the automotive field, you could start off doing more advanced jobs. But if you're just getting into the field and you're new and you don't have a whole lot of experience, you're going to be doing what most people do when they first get into the field, and that is oil changes, tire rotations, tire changes, spark plug services, brakes, simple smaller jobs. They're not going to start you off with advanced diagnosis of electrical issues or replacing a transmission wall. I should say most shops won't do that because they want somebody that is more qualified, somebody with experience for those more advanced jobs. I'm going to go into some of the tools that you might want to think about getting before getting into the field, and then once you get into the field, you talk to your coworkers, find out, and you'll realize it as you go along as well, what tools you're going to need for the jobs that you're good at and the jobs that you're going to be given. But first, most likely, you're going to have to be proficient in the jobs that they give you when you first start. So 90% of places are not going to supply you with the tools that you need. My job, luckily, I do. So all of these tools I'm about to show you are tools that I have here at home. So we're going to start off. First thing is a service card or a toolbox. Most likely start off with something. This goes for everything. Everything. Buy things that you can afford without putting yourself in debt. Do not throw yourself in a bad situation just getting into this field. Keep in mind, this field is not cheap. No matter what, you will be spending money, but do your best to stay within a good, reasonable budget. That's the main thing. So that goes for everything. Don't look at these I'm about to show you as far as their brands, just the tool themselves. Then you find out the brand that you can afford. So first up, service card or toolbox. Service card is probably a little bit easier, especially for the jobs that you're going to do, moving around and everything like that. And then the tools that you buy first getting into the field will most likely, or should, fit inside that service card that you purchase. And then as it grows, you can get a toolbox and fill that up. So next up, if you're doing oil changes and stuff like that, you're obviously going to need oil filter tools and maybe drain plug tools. Obviously a socket set for that, that's kind of a given, but you're going to want a couple different types of oil filter tools to remove those pain in the butt filters. Also keep in mind, I'm showing you the smaller stuff right now, and then the bigger stuff, or some of the stuff I have a lot of, I'll just show you the drawer and kind of point out to you what I suggest. So oil tools first up after your cart. And also keep in mind, this depends on the jobs that you're going to be doing. Then the next thing is a flip socket set if you're doing tires and stuff like that. Anytime you get the vehicle up on a lift and you're changing the tires or rotating the tires or small jobs like that, just a simple flip socket set, which is an extension with a couple of sockets with a different size on each end. One's like a 19 and 21. They're your common size for your lug nuts. So after that, you're definitely going to want flashlights. It doesn't matter what you get something that fits your needs. Definitely a pocket flashlight comes in handy a lot. But then under hood lights or little shop, different lights, something to light up your work area. Next up is impact driver, a torque wrench. Definitely if you're doing tires and stuff, you're not just going to go willy-nilly and just put the lug nuts on. You're going to torque those lug nuts because after you work on somebody's car, that's their life in your hands. So always torque the lug nuts. And then a simple impact driver and impact, whether you go cordless power tools or pneumatic air tools, doesn't matter. Whatever fits your needs the best as far as what you can spend. And then obviously if you're doing tires, you're going to want a good air pressure gauge, valve stem tool. Now keep in mind that the shop might supply some of these, like if you're doing brakes and stuff, they might have a scan tool to reset ABS brakes, because some vehicles require that. They might, have some simple tools like this, so keep in mind. But also know that somebody else could be using the tools at the same time that you need them, and that's why it's kind of up to you to decide whether you should purchase it or not. And then another thing that I find comes in handy for oil changes and coolant flushes and all of that liquid type job is a flexible funnel. This can go underneath the drain plug, and you can shape it, because a lot of drain plugs tend to find themselves right above a cross member or some sort of framework or suspension. Something tends to be in the way on a lot of these vehicles, so this will keep it from pouring down everything underneath the vehicle and go straight into your drain pan or T drain, whatever. If you're doing coolant flushes, I do suggest a no spill funnel. There are many different brands out there, and they come with different adapters for many different vehicles, and saves a lot of time. It gets all the air out of the systems and stuff like that as well, so that's really handy. Now, that's it as far as the smaller common stuff. I'm going to bring you over to the toolboxes over here and show you some of the other stuff that I would suggest. Also, keep in mind, all of the tools I do suggest are linked down in the description for you guys, as well as many other things, so go ahead and check out the link in the description. Also, if you guys realize, and you've been in the field a while, anything that I may forget that you suggest, please drop it down in the comments for others getting into this field. Okay, so up here I just have a set of Technin screwdrivers. Remember, brand doesn't matter. I have like 2 or 3 sets of screwdrivers, so when you start out, if you have an impact driver, most of the time you're going to be, using that to remove screws and smaller stuff. But I would still suggest getting a screwdriver set. It doesn't have to be, a huge 30-piece set or anything like that, but your common screwdrivers. And then obviously you're going to need wrenches. Get what best fits your needs, combination wrenches, ratcheting wrenches, flare nut wrenches. There's going to be a lot of different wrenches out there, but you'll figure out, get the common ones, and then as you progress, you'll know which ones you need to buy. Obviously, you're going to want some impact sockets. Now, my thing is, if you're just starting out and you're really on a budget, maybe get 1/4 inch sockets in chrome, and then 3/8 and 1/2 inch in impact grade. And then as you make some money, you can, buy the chrome 3/8 and 1/2 as well. It's not often that I ever use chrome 1/2 inch, so I don't really have much of that in this toolbox. And that's just metric. And then SAE I don't use as much of, so obviously I don't have as many. But same thing goes for that. 1/4 inch in chrome, 3/8 and 1/2 inch in impact. But really, if you look out there for certain brands, you can get a really good quality at a really good price. So if you can afford it, you can do, chrome and impact. And then obviously ratchets go along with that as well. More of the brake tools, or if you're doing the brake jobs, you got a brake caliper compressor. This thing is fantastic. And then this is specifically for your drum brakes and stuff like that, which you will still come across. Yes, they're phasing out, but you will still come across them. You'll have to decide, depending on how many brake jobs you're doing, whether you need a kit like this or not. And then this set is specifically for vehicles with the oil filter cartridges, where it's maybe mounted on top or on the side, where you actually need a socket, and this is a shallow socket to get in those tight spots like the Ecotech engines. And then depending on where you're working, I would suggest getting a good bit socket set, but depending on where you're working, keep in mind if you work for Volkswagen or anything like that, you may need triple squares, which is, I'm going to be over here, a special design specifically used for certain vehicles. So depending on where you're working at is going to require maybe some specialty tools. That's the big money stuff. Not necessarily triple squares, but specialty tools. And then like I mentioned before, you might want some bits for your impact driver and stuff like that, because you will tend to use those a little bit more than a normal screwdriver. At least I tend to. Maybe a small pick set that'll come in handy. Depending on if you really do any electrical work starting out, probably not, but it's good to have your basic electrical tools like wire strippers and stuff like that. Most likely the shop will have a battery tester, but if you're going to be doing that, you could invest in one of those. Pliers, you don't have to go all out like this, don't be overwhelmed. You might want to pick up a set of long needle nose pliers and then your basic pliers. You got diagonal side cutters, slip joint pliers, needle nose, channel lock or water pump pliers, tongue and groove, whatever you want to call them, and then maybe a set of vice grips. Keep it simple, and then as you advance, you'll realize what you really need. And then here we just have more wrenches, getting into some of your specialty deep offsets and flare nut wrenches and stubbies. But start out with your basic stuff. Get your common ratchets, extensions. It all depends on whether you buy these things individually, you buy your ratchets individually, your sockets, extensions, or if you get a kit and it all comes included. That's up to you. Then you're going to want a smaller punch and chisel set, a good set of pry bars. You can get a good set of pry bars made in the USA for really cheap, so that's not a big deal. Maybe a small file set, spark plug sockets. That's a big thing if you're doing spark plugs. That's a simple job, so a good spark plug socket set. More extensions, a good hammer set, really a ball peen, dead blow. It's not much, rubber mallet. And then where it's going to get expensive, depending on, once again, where you work, is going to depend on the specialty tools. If you want to start off with a smaller little code reader, smaller scanner, that's a wise move. I believe anybody in this field could, invest in one. It doesn't have to be anything really advanced when you're first starting out, but then you got your specialty tools. But once again, that's going to depend on. And then once again, you're going to want funnels and stuff like that for those jobs. DVOM if you're doing any more electrical work. And then, if you get into specific types of work, you'll need more electrical tools, specialty tools, bigger sets of the tools that you already own, depending on the stuff that you work on. But other than that, I think I covered everything. Let me know if I forgot anything major. But as you go along, you will grow and find out what you really need. So please let me know if you guys enjoyed by hitting that thumbs up. Leave a comment down below if I forgot anything, or if you just have a comment that you want to leave. And as always, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe.